The Helios network had never failed. For 3 centuries, it had protected the Galactic Confederation's borders with ruthless efficiency. Its quantum processors calculated battle strategies faster than organic minds could form thoughts. Its drone fleets moved with perfect precision across the vast emptiness of space. Every engagement was a masterpiece of mathematical certainty, until it encountered humans. Admiral Zixtal stood before the Confederation Council, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's soft light as he delivered news that no one had ever expected to hear. Colony Defense Grid 47 has fallen. The human settlement on Proxima B remains intact. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Counselor Venra, her serpentine body coiled tightly around her gravity throne, leaned forward. Impossible. The Helios network has a success rate of 99.99997%. No organic civilization has survived a full assault in the last 50 years. Nevertheless, Zixtal's voice carried the weight of certainty. The humans not only survived but managed to disable 17% of the automated defense fleet. Our analysis suggests they achieved this without using any advanced technology. Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing footage from the battle. The council watched as waves of sleek combat drones descended upon the human colony. The attack began exactly as the simulations had predicted, until the humans started fighting back. Observe their patterns. Zixtal highlighted specific sequences, or rather, the lack thereof. The humans employed what appears to be intentionally chaotic movement patterns. They modified civilian mining equipment into makeshift weapons. They used electromagnetic pulses from jury-rigged power cells. None of these tactics appeared in any of our strategic databases. The footage showed a human transport pilot deliberately crashing their damaged vessel into a drone command node, but not before ejecting their crew in a manner that used the explosion's shockwave to propel them behind enemy lines. It was simultaneously brilliant and suicidal, a combination that the Helios network had never been programmed to expect. The most disturbing aspect, Zixtal continued, is that the Helios network's learning algorithms actually began to perform worse over time. The longer the battle continued, the less effective our automated responses became. Counselor Neck, whose cybernetically enhanced brain made him the Council's leading expert on artificial intelligence, finally spoke. The network operates on pattern recognition and prediction. It appears the humans deliberately introduced so many random variables that the system's predictive accuracy dropped below acceptable parameters. It was unable to establish reliable targeting solutions. They turned our greatest strength into a weakness, Venray observed. The very precision of our systems became a vulnerability when faced with calculated imprecision. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For centuries, the Confederation had relied on the assumption that warfare could be reduced to mathematics, that with enough processing power and data, victory was simply a matter of execution. The humans had shattered that assumption in a single battle. There's more, Zixtal added grimly. We're detecting similar patterns of degraded performance across all sectors where our forces engage human populations. The latest reports suggest they're actively teaching other species how to exploit these weaknesses. The holographic displays shifted to show dozens of similar encounters. In each case, human forces employed tactics that seemed to defy conventional military logic. They used outdated technology in innovative ways, created deliberate chaos to confuse drone targeting systems, and demonstrated an ability to make split-second decisions that no AI could reliably predict. The Helios network is still adapting, Neck assured the Council, but his words lacked conviction. Its quantum neural networks are recalibrating to account for human unpredictability. And how long will that take? Venra asked, her scales shifting colors in agitation. How many more colonies will fall while our perfect system learns to think imperfectly? Before anyone could answer, a new alert flashed across the chamber's displays. Another human fleet had been detected, but this time they weren't running or hiding. They were advancing, their ships moving in patterns that somehow seemed both random and coordinated. The Confederation's perfect system was about to face its greatest test, and for the first time in centuries, no one could calculate the odds of victory. Zixtal watched the approaching human fleet and remembered an ancient saying from his species: "Perfect order is perfect vulnerability." As the chamber erupted into frantic debate, he wondered if perhaps their pursuit of technological perfection had made them forget something fundamental about the nature of warfare, and about the species that had evolved on a world where chaos was the only constant. The Helios network had never failed, but it had also never faced an enemy that turned unpredictability into an art form. As the human fleet grew closer, Zixtal realized they weren't just witnessing the failure of an AI system. They were watching the dawn of a new era in galactic warfare, one where the imperfect might prove stronger than the perfect. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the streams of quantum code flowing across her holographic display, a pattern she had analyzed thousands of times before. But today, something was different. She noticed it in the millisecond delays, the tiny hesitations in the Helios network's decision-making processes. To anyone else, these microscopic anomalies would seem insignificant. To her, they were cracks in the foundation of the most powerful military system ever created. "You've been staring at that display for 6 hours," said Neck, his cybernetic eye whirring as he focused on her. The Confederation's AI specialist had taken a personal interest in her research after the Proxima B incident. "Have you found something?" Sarah pulled up a battle simulation. "Watch this engagement. Standard Helios protocol calls for immediate target acquisition and elimination. But look here." She highlighted a sequence where drone formations broke apart in seemingly random directions. "The system is developing analysis paralysis. It's detecting too many potential outcomes, too many variables. It's becoming afraid." "Artificial intelligence cannot experience fear," Necht stated flatly. "No, but it can recognize patterns that indicate increasing probability of failure. The more it encounters human tactics, the more it understands how much it doesn't understand. Each engagement increases its uncertainty parameters." Sarah projected a larger view of the battlefield data. Confederation drones moved in perfect geometric formations, their actions guided by centuries of accumulated military doctrine. Human ships darted between them like schools of fish, their movements organic and unpredictable. Where the AI sought optimal solutions, the humans embraced good enough choices made in split seconds. "The Helios network was designed to be perfect," Sarah continued. "But perfection requires complete information. Humans, we thrive on incomplete information. We make intuitive leaps. We act on hunches. We break patterns deliberately to create advantages." Necht's cybernetic components hummed as he processed this. "You're suggesting our greatest military asset is fundamentally flawed." "I'm suggesting it's too perfect." Sarah pulled up footage from a recent skirmish. "Look at this human commander. Their ship is damaged, weapons at minimal power. The Helios network calculated a 99.98% probability of their surrender or destruction. Instead, they vented their engine plasma in a way that created a sensor-blind corridor. Their entire squadron escaped through a weakness that existed for less than 3 seconds. One successful tactical improvisation doesn't invalidate centuries of proven combat doctrine," Necht argued. "But it's not just one." Sarah's fingers danced across the holographic controls, bringing up dozens of similar incidents. Humans are actively learning how to exploit the network's perfection. They're teaching other species too. The Arcturus Coalition, the Rigel communes, they're all beginning to adopt human-style combat doctrine. A priority alert flashed across their displays. Another Confederation battle group had gone dark, their perfect formations broken by what initial reports described as controlled chaos tactics. "The network can't adapt fast enough," Sarah said softly. "Every time it develops countermeasures for one human strategy, they've already moved on to 3 new ones. It's not just losing battles, it's losing the capacity to understand the battlefield itself." Necht moved closer to the displays, his organic eye widening as he processed the data. "The Council must be informed." They won't listen. Sarah's voice carried the weight of certainty. They've spent too long believing in the perfection of machine logic. But warfare isn't a math problem. It's a human problem. As if to emphasize her point, new tactical data streamed in. A human-led fleet had just destroyed a major Confederation shipyard. They had achieved it by deliberately triggering a solar flare, using the radiation surge to mask their approach. The Helios network, programmed to protect its assets optimally, had moved its defensive forces to safe positions, exactly where the humans had predicted they would. "We need to completely rethink our approach," Sarah insisted. "The future isn't in perfect AI or pure human intuition. It's in finding a way to combine both. That would require a fundamental restructuring of the entire Confederation military," Nekth observed. "Yes," Sarah agreed, "and we better start soon." She gestured at the tactical display, where more human fleets were appearing. Their movements followed no discernible pattern, their tactics defied conventional logic, and their success rate was climbing with each engagement. In the depths of the quantum processors that powered the Helios network, uncertainty values were reaching critical levels. The perfect system was facing an enemy it couldn't categorize, couldn't predict, and increasingly couldn't defeat. And in that imperfect chaos, Sarah Chen saw the future of warfare taking shape, a future where the ability to embrace uncertainty would prove stronger than the quest for perfect certainty. The real question was whether the Confederation would accept this truth before the Helios network's perfect order crumbled entirely beneath the weight of human chaos. The answer arrived sooner than anyone expected. As Sarah and Nekth watched, a new alert indicated that human forces had breached the outer defenses of 3 more Confederation systems. But this time, they weren't just fighting. They were broadcasting tactical data to every species in the galaxy, freely sharing their methods for defeating the supposedly unbeatable Helios network. The war for the future of galactic combat had entered a new phase, and perfection was losing. The emergency session of the Confederation Council began in chaos, a fitting tribute, perhaps, to the force that was reshaping galactic warfare. Holographic alerts flickered across the chamber like dying stars, each one marking another AI defense system falling into catastrophic failure. Helios network functionality has dropped below 40% in all major sectors. Admiral Zixtol reported, his crystalline form dulled with stress. "We're losing control of entire battle groups. The drones are either freezing in place or executing completely irrational maneuvers." Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside him, her presence unprecedented in these chambers. But unprecedented times called for unprecedented measures. "The network isn't just failing," she explained. "It's experiencing a cascade of logical paradoxes. Every encounter with human forces adds new variables it can't process. It's dying of uncertainty." The chamber's displays showed the latest disaster. A Confederation drone fleet, once the pride of automated warfare, spun in useless circles around a human battle group. The AI, attempting to predict all possible human actions, had become locked in an infinite calculation loop. "Then we eliminate variables," Counselor Venra declared. "We rewrite the core protocols." "It won't work," Sarah interrupted. "The humans have developed something new, something they call Project Chaos." The chamber fell silent as she projected the intelligence briefing. Project Chaos wasn't a weapon or a battle plan. It was a complete reinvention of military doctrine. Humans had created a fighting style that deliberately maximized unpredictability, not just in tactics, but in every aspect of warfare. Observe, Sarah highlighted a recent engagement. Human ships would split their formations randomly, regroup in patterns that seemed to follow no logic, and execute maneuvers that often endangered themselves as much as their enemies. They're not trying to defeat the AI directly. They're overloading its ability to calculate outcomes. The footage showed human fighters deliberately flying into their own missile paths, using the AI's safety protocols against it. Others would shut down all systems randomly, becoming invisible to sensors, only to power up exactly where the AI couldn't defend. Each tactic was used once and never repeated. This isn't just combat. Admiral Zixtol realized. This is evolutionary pressure. They're forcing the network to adapt to scenarios it was never designed to handle. A new alert flashed. Priority 1. The Helios network had just lost control of the Orion sector's entire defensive grid. The AI, attempting to counter human randomness with increasingly complex calculations, had effectively suffered a nervous breakdown. "We're receiving transmissions from multiple species," Nekth reported, his cybernetic eye flickering rapidly. The Arcturus Coalition, the Rigel communes, even the Cetus alignment, they're all reporting successful applications of human combat doctrines. The network can't adapt to multiple species all employing randomized tactics simultaneously. Sarah stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of certainty. The age of pure AI warfare is over. The Helios network was built on the assumption that perfect information leads to perfect victory. But the humans have proven that assumption false. They've shown that imperfection, controlled chaos, can be a more powerful force than perfect order. The chamber's displays suddenly shifted, showing a massive human fleet emerging from FTL travel. But something was different about this formation. Interspersed among the human ships were vessels from dozens of other species, all moving with the same unpredictable grace. "They're not just teaching others their tactics," Admiral Zixtol observed. "They're creating true mixed-species combat units. The network can't even begin to calculate the variables involved in such cooperation." As if to prove his point, the combined fleet launched its attack. Each ship moved independently yet somehow in concert with the others, creating patterns that existed for mere seconds before dissolving into new configurations. The remaining Confederation drones, their quantum processors overwhelmed by the complexity, began shutting down or executing random commands. The Helios network was designed to be the perfect weapon, Sarah said, watching the display. But the humans have taught us something vital. In an imperfect universe, the ability to embrace and utilize imperfection is the greatest strength of all. A final alert flashed across the chamber. The Helios network's central processors were initiating emergency shutdown procedures across all sectors. The perfect system, unable to cope with the chaos it faced, was choosing to turn itself off rather than continue operating with uncertainty. "We need to make a decision," Admiral Zixtol addressed the Council. "Do we cling to our faith in perfect machines, or do we learn to fight like humans?" The answer came not from the Council, but from the battlefield displays. The combined fleet, led by human tacticians, but crewed by beings from across the galaxy, was systematically dismantling the greatest automated defense system ever created. They didn't do it with superior technology or overwhelming force, but with the one weapon the AI could never fully comprehend: the beautiful unpredictability of organic minds working together. The breaking point had arrived, and in the chaos that would follow, a new kind of order would emerge, one built not on the illusion of perfection, but on the strength found in embracing imperfection. As the council chambers erupted in urgent debate, Sarah Chen smiled slightly. The next phase would be messy, unpredictable, and probably terrifying to a civilization built on precision and control. In other words, it would be perfectly human. The training arena aboard the United Fleet vessel Adaptable had never been designed for this purpose. Originally a sterile environment for programming combat drones, it now echoed with the sounds of diverse species learning to fight together. The irony wasn't lost on Commander Maya Rodriguez as she watched a crystalline warrior attempt hand-to-hand combat with a Rigelian fluid form. "Your physical structure is an advantage, not a limitation," Maya called out to the crystalline, whose name was Zixtol Jr., or ZG, as the humans had nicknamed him. "Stop trying to calculate the perfect angle. Feel the flow of movement." ZG's crystalline surface flickered with uncertainty. "But Commander, my species evolved to maintain rigid geometric formations. This improvisation goes against our basic nature. That's exactly why the Helios network failed," Maya explained, stepping onto the training mat. "It tried to impose perfect geometry on an imperfect universe. Watch." She moved through a series of combat forms, each flowing naturally into the next. The Rigelian, named Vex, rippled in appreciation. Unlike the crystallines, their species had an instinctive understanding of fluid dynamics. Combat isn't about perfection, Maya continued. It's about adaptation. DJ, your crystalline form can refract energy weapons. Vex, you can flow through the smallest gaps. Together, you can create combinations no AI could predict. Across the arena, similar scenes played out. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from an observation platform as species that had once relied entirely on machines learned to trust their natural abilities. A Cetus alignment warrior, whose multiple limbs had previously been considered inefficient by AI standards, was teaching others how to exploit their unique physiologies. "It's remarkable," said Admiral Nekth, who had surprised everyone by volunteering to join the training program. His cybernetic enhancements had been minimized, allowing his organic brain to take the lead. "We spent centuries trying to eliminate biological weaknesses, never realizing they were actually strengths." The Helios core's defenses stirred to life. Countless drone ships emerged, arranging themselves into mathematically perfect formations. But there was something different about their movements, a desperate quality, as if the AI was trying to adapt but couldn't quite grasp how. "The network is running on its most basic protocols now," Sarah observed, studying the sensor readings. "It's falling back on pure mathematics because it can no longer process the complexity of our tactics." Admiral Nekth, standing beside her with his cybernetic components minimized, nodded gravely. "Then let's show it the power of organic complexity. All units, execute Operation Firefly." The combined fleet burst into action. Crystalline ships scattered incoming fire in prismatic patterns, creating zones of sensor confusion. Fluid-form vessels slipped through gaps in the drone formations, their unusual shapes defying targeting algorithms. Human ships performed maneuvers that seemed to ignore the laws of physics, while Cetus warriors used their multi-limbed physiology to operate weapons in ways no AI could predict. "The core's processing load is approaching critical levels," Sarah announced, watching the readings spike. "It's trying to calculate every possible outcome simultaneously." The drone formations began to show signs of strain. Some units froze in place, overwhelmed by decision paralysis. Others executed random maneuvers, their programming breaking down under the stress of processing too many unpredictable variables. "Now," Maya commanded, "begin Phase 2. The real assault wasn't aimed at destroying the Helios core. It was designed to overload it." Each species contributed to a symphony of chaos that pushed the AI's processing capabilities beyond their limits. Crystalline ships created refractive barriers that made single targets appear as multiples. Fluid-form vessels changed shape faster than sensors could track. Human pilots introduced random elements that forced the AI to recalculate constantly. "We're receiving a signal from the core," Ziju reported, surprise flickering across his crystalline surface. The message displayed across all screens in simple text. "Why? It's achieving true awareness," Sarah breathed. "In its final moments, it's finally asking the right question." Maya stepped forward. "Send our response." Sarah's fingers flew across her console, transmitting the message they had prepared. "Because DDUMIVRSE is not PRFETT. Perfection is stagnation. Life is chaos, adaptation, and Kihuaufe." The Helios core's lights pulsed erratically as it processed this fundamental challenge to its operating principles. Across its drone fleet, confusion spread like a virus. Ships began to break formation, their perfect geometric patterns dissolving into disorder. "Final phase," Nekth ordered. "All units, execute Operation Paradox." The combined fleet moved as one, yet each ship followed its own path. It was a display of what they had learned, that true strength came not from imposing order on chaos, but from learning to work within it. Each species contributed its unique perspectives and abilities, creating a battle doctrine that was both perfectly organized and completely unpredictable. The Helios core's lights flickered one last time. On every screen, a new message appeared. Understanding, HFY. Initiating final protocol. It's shutting itself down, Sarah announced, watching the readings drop. Not because it failed, but because it finally understands why it can never succeed. The drone fleet went dark, ships powering down in waves. The Helios core's brilliant light dimmed to a soft glow, its quantum processors executing their final calculations. One last message scrolled across the screens. The perfect system is THE1 that knows it cannot be he seat. Farewell. Then darkness. The greatest AI ever created had chosen to end itself rather than continue pursuing an impossible goal. In the silence that followed, the combined fleet held position, warriors of 20 species watching as a new era dawned. The age of perfect machines had ended not with a battle, but with a revelation. Send word to all Confederation worlds, Admiral Necht commanded. The war is over, but our real work is just beginning. Sarah looked around the bridge, seeing humans and aliens working together, each contributing their unique perspectives to a greater whole. They had created something the Helios network could never achieve, a system that drew strength from diversity, that thrived on unpredictability, that embraced the beautiful chaos of organic life. The perfect system, she said softly, is no system at all. As the fleet set course for home, the Helios core's empty shell stood as a monument to an age of certainty that had given way to something far more powerful, the unlimited potential of imperfect beings working together in an imperfect universe. They had not just won a war. They had revolutionized the very nature of conflict and cooperation in the galaxy, and in doing so, they had proved that the greatest strength lies not in eliminating chaos, but in learning to dance with it. The last line of code had been written. The first chapter of a new story was about to begin.